I was the well-known good girl in the wealthy social circle, yet I once did 3 extremely outrageous things. First, I got together with Benjamin, the notorious playboy. Second, I proposed to him myself. Third, he dumped me without mercy. And today, I've done a 4th outrageous thing. I ended up in a hotel bed with my blind date. Oh, and now there's a 5th one. The hotel belongs to Benjamin. Chapter 1. I never imagined that the next time I saw Benjamin would be under such circumstances. Outside the elevator, he was holding his new lover in his arms, his face dark and stormy. The group of guys behind him all stared wide-eyed in shock. Inside the elevator, my body was limp as I was pressed against the wall by my blind date. A forceful, possessive kiss. Holy crap. Someone finally couldn't hold back and blurted out a shocked exclamation. Then he hurriedly shut his mouth, sneaking an awkward glance at Benjamin. After all, the fact that Benjamin and I used to be together wasn't a secret. Heh. Benjamin pulled his date closer by the waist, glanced at us, already separated now, and let out a cold, derisive sound. Then, with a dark expression, he raised a brow. Aren't you coming out? Planning to just go all the way in the elevator? My eyes dropped instantly in embarrassment. The tips of my ears burned scarlet, and even the alcohol seemed to fade a little. I hurriedly grabbed the hand of the man beside me and stepped out of the elevator quickly. We walked out, and they walked in. As we brushed past each other, I didn't lift my head. A dense, suffocating ache wrapped around my heart like a fishing net, tightening mercilessly. Just as I was about to walk away, a mocking laugh came from behind. Benjamin, your ex-girlfriend sure knows how to play now. If she had been this wild earlier, you probably wouldn't have gotten bored. Huh? Chapter 2. Bored. My body froze. The invisible net tightened again, slicing into my heart. The pain almost unbearable. Benjamin and I used to be the most unexpected couple in our circle. He was the type who lived for pleasure, romance, flings, nightlife, the famously unrestrained prince. I was disciplined, quiet, obedient, the perfect good girl. No one expected Benjamin to pursue me so openly, to calm down for me, to become better for me, to spend lavishly on me. For one casual comment from me about craving something sweet, he once drove around the entire city to buy pastries. For 3 whole years, he treated me with meticulous tenderness, so well that I truly believed this playboy had settled down and genuinely loved me. Until the proposal 2 months ago shattered the beautiful lie I'd been clinging to. I will never forget that moment, standing in a sea of red flowers, holding a ring and roses, waiting joyfully for him to walk in. But when the door opened, what I saw instead was him tightly embracing a hot, voluptuous woman, kissing her passionately. The two of them couldn't even wait to get inside the room. They were already tearing at each other's clothes right at the entrance. Their heated entanglement made it obvious what was about to happen next. Maybe he finally sensed someone else was there, because Benjamin suddenly narrowed his eyes. He shielded the girl in his arms as he looked toward me. A second later, shock froze his expression. Fiona? Weren't you supposed to be performing in City B? How? His gaze swept across the decorations in the room and finally landed on the banner hanging on the wall. Marry me. I will. Benjamin frowned. When he looked back at me again, his eyes were no longer gentle but filled with ridicule. Seeing me holding the roses and ring, he sounded annoyed and impatient. Well, looks like I can't hide it anymore. Since you found out. Good. I'm tired of pretending to be a reformed playboy anyway. Chapter 3. My tears had already broken through their dam. I clenched my fists, still refusing to believe it. My voice trembled. Why? Benjamin pinched the bridge of his nose, then let out a cold, indifferent smile. Because you're just too boring. I've been tired of you for a long time. Boring? Tired of me? I stared at him in disbelief, momentarily forgetting even the pain. If you were tired of me, why didn't you say so earlier? We weren't together for 3 days, we were together for 3 years. If he had brought up breaking up, I wouldn't have clung to him desperately. So why like this? Benjamin raised an eyebrow. His mocking, careless expression hadn't changed. But suddenly, he felt like a stranger to me. I needed a girlfriend who was obedient, easy to deal with, and wouldn't cause trouble. To shut up those old-fashioned people at home and in the company who kept pressuring me to settle down. Needed. So he pursued me just because he needed someone? Over one word, need, he could act out love so convincingly and deceive me for 3 years? It's just that now. Fiona, it seems you're not even fit to be a decoration. Benjamin swept his gaze over the proposal decorations in the room again and let out a faint, dismissive laugh. You think giving a little sincerity means we're tied together for life? You're too deep in the fantasy. Once we get married, your greed will only grow, and that's trouble. That's right, the girl beside him added, giving me a disdainful look. Benjamin is better off with me. If Benjamin needs the good girl style, I can do that too, and I guarantee I'm far more fun and exciting than some people. Congratulations, Benjamin, on regaining your glorious freedom. After speaking, she rose on her toes and gently kissed Benjamin. Benjamin paused for a moment, his gaze flicking toward me. He stared for a second with an unreadable expression. Then he cupped the back of her head and deepened the kiss. In the silent room, the only sound left was the intimate noise of lips brushing and entwining. I cried and laughed at the same time. In my mind, my best friend's past warning surfaced. A playboy might settle down one day, but never believe he'll settle down for you. What's terrifying is that he's only interested for a moment, but you've given him your whole heart. When that happens, Fiona, you lose everything. Yes, he acted on a moment's whim, while I lost everything. How foolish I was, daring to dream of spending a lifetime with him. I had forgotten, playboys never come with a lifetime promise. Ah, it's the senior girlfriend. Inside the elevator, the woman in Benjamin's arms exclaimed with a mocking lilt. Playing around in the elevator? So thrilling. Benjamin, you actually broke up with such a wild beauty? Benjamin's dark eyes fixed eerily on me. He tightened his arm around the woman and smirked. She's just a dead fish. No matter how much she struggles, she's still dull. Chapter 4. All the color drained from my face in an instant. Being someone who was always at a loss for harsh words, I couldn't even come up with anything to curse back at Benjamin's crude insult. My fists tightened. I thought, if I can't out-insult him, maybe I should just slap him? But before I could move, a warm arm suddenly wrapped around my shoulders. My body fell into a firm, heated embrace. The man who had been silently standing beside me pulled me into him. He lowered his head and whispered intimately against my ear. Do you want me to hold you? My breath hitched. I swallowed down the pain in my chest and was just about to refuse. But from behind us, in the elevator, came Benjamin's low, displeased voice. You too. I'll waive your room fee for tonight. The man holding me tightened his arm. He turned and looked toward Benjamin, raising an eyebrow. A faint smile appeared on his lips, though there was a clear challenge in his eyes. Oh. Benjamin didn't look at him. He only stared straight at me, his gaze dark and deep. Fiona stayed with me for 3 years. Since the two of you came to my hotel today, I should show some courtesy. I'll have someone send a few toys over later. Consider them a little something to help you two enjoy yourselves. After all, with Fiona's wooden, inexperienced skills, the night might not go too smoothly. As soon as he finished, the elevator erupted with laughter. My face turned pale with fury. Nonsense. He had never even touched me. Where did all that filthy talk come from? We didn't even. Thank you for the gesture, senior. The man beside me cut in smoothly, gently pulling me back. His tone remained calm, but the words he spoke plunged everyone into a strange silence. But instead of someone already skilled, I'd rather personally teach Fiona to explore and learn. After all, we'll have plenty of time in the future for slow, intimate lessons. As for you, senior, you won't have that chance. Benjamin's pupils trembled violently, his fists clenched, and with a stormy expression, he stepped forward. But the elevator doors were already closing. Chapter 5. Even after swiping the card and entering the room, my face was still burning red, like a monkey's backside. Just now, he didn't use a single dirty word, yet every sentence carried a forbidden, provocative undertone. This man, during the blind date, he had clearly been gentle and refined, calm, elegant, like a breeze under the bright moon. How did he suddenly become like that? Swish. The bathroom door was pulled open. The man came out with his hair dripping wet, looking a little disheveled. His white shirt was completely soaked, clinging to his body and faintly outlining the shape of his abs. I immediately averted my gaze and stared at a vase beside me instead. Amias sat down on the sofa far away from me, his lips a little pale. About what happened in the elevator. I overstepped. I apologize. Miss Moo. I shook my head quickly. No. It's fine. It's not your fault. You're the victim. If I hadn't lost my mind and chosen a trendy bar as the blind date spot just so I wouldn't seem boring, I wouldn't have let my guard down and ended up with someone slipping something into my drink. Since I had never drunk alcohol before, Amias noticed the cocktail was too strong for me and offered to switch glasses. And then everything just. I was so anxious I only wanted to find the nearest hotel so he could cool off with a cold shower. I didn't even realize the hotel belonged to Benjamin. I'm really sorry, Amias. I made you experience the worst blind date imaginable. Amias lowered his gaze slightly as he towel-dried his hair. Then the corner of his lips curved faintly. It was, indeed, a bit terrible. Chapter 6. On the first floor of the hotel, Benjamin walked out of the elevator with a cold expression, his aura dark and oppressive. The guys behind him didn't seem to notice and slapped his shoulder, laughing. Benjamin. Seems Fiona isn't just some quiet little instrument-playing girl. She's not dull at all. A good girl blank slate, train her however you want. Thinking about it, kinda exciting. Huh? That guy she's with looked like a good catch. They're probably rolling around in bed right now. Bang! A trash bin was kicked over. Benjamin's face was icy as he abruptly shoved the woman beside him away. The veins on the back of his clenched hand bulged sharply. His chest rose and fell a few times before he suddenly cursed under his breath, turned around, and pressed the up button. The elevator was already on the first floor, so the doors opened quickly. The group stared blankly as Benjamin strode inside, repeatedly slamming the close button like he was picking a fight with it, leaving all of them exchanging baffled looks. Why is he that angry? Benjamin's childhood friend, Liam, stared at the slowly closing elevator doors with a frown. Then he suddenly asked a completely unrelated question. Haven't you guys noticed something off about Benjamin these past 2 months? Everyone froze. Huh? What's off? After breaking up with Fiona, Benjamin finally returned openly to his old lifestyle. Drinking, flirting, racing cars. He was just as carefree and reckless as before. Well, aside from occasionally staring at his phone in a daze. But that was nothing. Inside the elevator, Benjamin's eyes were dark and gloomy as he glared at the flashing floor numbers. His jaw was clenched tight, revealing the fury beneath his calm surface. Suddenly, he slammed a fist into the elevator wall and gritted his teeth. Fiona, how dare you? Chapter 7. Amias went to rinse himself with cold water again. The good news was that the drug's effects had finally worn off. The bad news was, his strength had worn off too. A sudden thud came from the bathroom, something heavy hitting the floor. It startled me so much that I rushed in without thinking. Then I saw Amias sitting on the ground with one knee bent, leaning against the wall. The cold water was still pouring down from above. Under the mist, he lifted his dripping head. He glanced at the fallen storage rack beside him and gave me a helpless, apologetic smile. No strength left, sorry. For a moment, he looked like a soaked, pitiful golden retriever. He didn't need to say a word, just looking at me with those wet eyes was enough to tug my guilt to the very peak. I hurriedly turned off the cold water and helped him up, letting him half lean against me for support. Being this close, the chill radiating from his body startled me. In the middle of winter, soaking in cold water like this, he was definitely going to catch a bad cold. Towel. I quickly grabbed a large bath towel from the side. Standing on tiptoe, I wrapped it around him from the top. But what I didn't expect was, when my feet came back down, the difference in our heights caused the towel I was holding to tighten, and it pulled Amias forward. The next second, the distance between us became 0. Our noses bumped together, and both of us froze. Amias was more than half a head taller than me. He stood there quietly, lowering his gaze to look at me intently. His eyes dark and deep. Water dripped from his hair, sliding down his sharp, handsome features. Gathering at his chin, the droplets finally fell, soaking into my clothes. The atmosphere suddenly turned intimate, ambiguous. What's this? You two planning to try a little bathroom play? A cold, angry voice came from the doorway. I jumped, immediately letting go. When I looked up, Benjamin was standing right at the bathroom entrance. A room card was pinched between his fingers. His chest rose and fell as he tried to steady his rapid breathing. His expression was dark, and his eyes were fixed intensely on us. Chapter 8. Amias frowned as well, but he stayed calmer than I was. He stepped forward, shielding me behind him. Then he looked straight at Benjamin and smiled. Benjamin personally coming to deliver the entertainment service? Of course. Benjamin let out a sharp, cold laugh. He leaned casually against the door with arms crossed. His expression was frivolous and arrogant. Why don't I just join the two of you? I guarantee you'll have the most exhilarating night. I was bewildered. Benjamin, are you insane? Was he here to cause trouble? Or to make me miserable? Or to cause trouble and make me miserable? A storm of dark emotion swirled in Benjamin's eyes as he stared straight at me. Didn't you want something exciting? Isn't this perfect? But speaking of being insane, saying this, he began walking toward us step by step. With obvious provocation, he scrutinized Amias from head to toe. Hey, buddy, how much do you charge? You clean? Checked? No diseases? I play wild. Sure, but I don't touch anything filthy. How about this? I'll pay for your checkup first. I was speechless, utterly dumbfounded. Benjamin, why don't you get your brain checked? Was insulting me in the elevator not enough? He had to chase all the way here just to stab Amias too? What did he take Amias for? The way he acted made it look as if I had cheated on him. It seems, Amias said with a small laugh, tone still steady. Benjamin misunderstood my profession. Let me introduce myself. I'm Amias Yi, president of the Yi Group, the blind date partner personally chosen by Miss Fiona's grandmother. Chapter 9. What Amias said sounded strange at first, but actually, it carried a deeper meaning. The Yi Group's main business used to operate overseas. Amias had only recently returned to expand domestic operations. Not many people in our circle knew him well. However, the phrase personally chosen by Grandma was enough to prove his family background was anything but ordinary. Benjamin clearly understood that too. His expression froze instantly. The confidence and arrogance he had when he barged and vanished the moment he realized Amias wasn't some escort. You're here for a blind date? Benjamin's gaze shifted to me, and in his eyes I saw something tense and probing, something I couldn't quite understand. You went to a hotel with him right after the blind date? You fancy him? I stared at him speechlessly. I didn't even want to respond. Why did a former boyfriend think he had the right to ask? Did breaking up come with lifetime after-sales service for him to monitor my love life? Answer me. Benjamin's voice dropped. Relentless. Do you fancy him? I was too tired to argue. Yes, I fancy him. Fine. Can you leave now? Benjamin's fists clenched, the veins in his neck bulging. For a moment, I genuinely thought he was going to hit someone, but instead, he just stared at me for a few seconds before suddenly letting out a careless, mocking laugh. Well, look at you, Fiona. How impressive. But let's be clear, this hotel is mine. If anyone is leaving, it'll be the two of you. After saying that, Benjamin tilted his head and curled his lips in a wicked smile. There was no doubt. He meant every word. I was so furious I choked on my own breath. And because of that, I overlooked something, the storm brewing in his darkened eyes. Chapter 10. Amias was still weak and couldn't drive. His assistant came to pick him up. Feeling guilty, I helped him into the car and gave a very serious wave. Amias, I'm sorry, and goodbye. Leaning back in the seat, Amias turned his head slightly, smiling gently and respectfully. Goodbye, Miss Moo. This goodbye probably meant never see each other again. I genuinely had no idea a blind date could become this disastrous. Getting kicked out of a hotel room by my ex-boyfriend? Surely a world first. With a defeated sigh, I lowered my head, opened the chat with Amias, and typed hesitantly, Amias, today I was really sorry. I had already apologized so many times today that I didn't even have the face to say it again. Forget it. I won't say anything. If fate allows. Maybe a message in a bottle someday. I let out a long exhale, ready to leave the underground parking lot and head upstairs to get a cab home. But the moment I turned around, I suddenly saw someone standing a short distance behind me. I jolted violently, my fingers slipping, and let out a sharp scream. Benjamin's face was dark as he strode forward, grabbed my wrist, and pinned me against the wall. Then, without warning, he lowered his head and crushed his lips against mine, swallowing my scream entirely. My hands were held down tightly. I couldn't break free. All I could do was bite down on his lip. Hard. The metallic taste of blood spread instantly. Benjamin winced in pain, finally breaking the kiss. But he didn't let me go. His arms remained locked around me, ignoring the blood on his lips. He lowered his head to meet my gaze, his voice deep and domineering. Did kissing him feel good? Thrilling? Is he better at kissing than me? Did it feel better than kissing me? I glared and turned my face away, refusing to answer. Benjamin, however, chuckled under his breath, the blood on his lips smudging into a dangerous, wicked curve. Didn't you say you loved me to death? And now, not long after breaking up, you came to a hotel with your next guy? Chapter 11. I frowned, anger and coldness rising in my eyes. What does any of this have to do with you? Benjamin raised an eyebrow and wiped the blood from his lip with his thumb. His voice held a smile, yet it was dark and chilling, as if he might tear me apart the very next second. We were at least together for a while. I can't even ask out of concern. You only know how to use the same few harsh lines. Huh? Used them all already? What's wrong? You can't talk properly when it's with me? I was furious beyond words. What kind of relationship did we ever have where we could talk properly? Was I the one who mocked and stabbed at people's hearts the moment we met? My upbringing could no longer hold back my temper. I clenched my fists. Concern? Benjamin. Wow, what a kind person you are. With all this concern, aren't you afraid I'll get greedy again and cling to you like trouble? Benjamin froze for a moment, his expression stiffening slightly. Then he raised an eyebrow and laughed. What? Isn't this whole playing hard to get routine because you finally figured things out? Figured out what? In the next instant, everything clicked. So he thought I regretted it, that I had compromised, that I had realized something, that I no longer dared to think about marriage or tie him down with love, that I had intentionally come to his hotel with another man to play push and pull and beg for reconciliation. Did he think he was the center of the universe? Someone I couldn't live without? Heh, I actually laughed, truly laughed. Benjamin, please get your brain checked. Narcissism is also a disease. You should treat it. Benjamin paused, seemingly surprised by my retort. Then his brows knitted tightly. Fiona, playing hard to get too far becomes boring. I smiled. Weren't you the one who always said I was boring? Benjamin, enjoy your gloriously regained freedom. The act of the reformed playboy ended long ago. After saying that, I shot him a cold, deep, and thoroughly disgusted look. Then I turned and walked away without looking back. Behind me, Benjamin stared at my disappearing figure, a trace of confusion appearing in his eyes, and a panic he himself didn't even realize. Chapter 12. I originally thought that once this night was over, the disastrous blind date would finally end, but I didn't expect the unfinished message to Amias, sent in my panic, had actually gone through. So the next morning, when I woke up with swollen frog-like eyes after crying all night, I saw Amias's reply on my screen and went completely blank. Last night at 8:07 p.m., I had sent Amias. Today I was really at 1:36 a.m. He replied. Really what? At 2:13 a.m. I think. Miss Moo, you're very interesting. At 2:20 a.m. Good night. I sat on the bed, holding my phone, completely stunned. Help. This disastrous blind date had somehow boomeranged back at me? With trembling fingers, I typed a new message. Amias, are you okay? To my surprise, he replied in just a few minutes. Physically okay. Mentally, just recovered a moment ago. I blinked. Huh? I thought Miss Moo didn't like me, and the blind date failed. Panic hit me. How could that be? I apologized so much yesterday. I was grateful you didn't block me. Amias didn't reply immediately, but every few seconds, the typing indicator popped up, filling my mind with question marks. After 5 minutes passed, I decided to stop waiting and get a shower. But just as I stood up, my phone vibrated. I see. I'm very happy that Miss Moo likes me. I was speechless. Logic absolutely did not work like that. I typed, Amias. You know about Benjamin and me? Yes. Which is why, if I want to try dating Miss Moo, do I need to eliminate Benjamin first? I haven't killed anyone in years. But for Miss Moo, I'm willing to come out of retirement. Then, he sent an emoji of a masked assassin violently stabbing a villain 3,000 times. Silent, menacing, and absurdly funny. I covered my face and couldn't help bursting out laughing. Chapter 13. After that blind date, my life went back to the same 2 points on a line, practicing the pipa and performing at the theater. And then going home. I didn't see anyone unrelated to work, but, compared to before, there was one difference. Amias, feeling unwell. That day, the theater had a performance. After the show, when I returned to the lounge, I saw a message from Amias. I carefully placed my pipa down and I replied with a string of question marks. Amias, maybe the drug effect, dizziness, discomfort, need someone to visit me. I couldn't help but laugh. Do you need me to remind you that was half a month ago? Amias, oh, failed attempt at gaining sympathy. Amias, I'm outside your theater. Want to meet? My fingers paused, and I scrolled upward a bit. We hadn't talked excessively, yet every message was about little moments from daily life. Honestly, I originally thought that after that night, the two of us would only ever exchange a message in a bottle, drifting and fading. I never imagined that instead of becoming distant, we lost our awkwardness and began talking more naturally. It even felt like the blind date had actually succeeded. It's snowing! One of the orchestra members suddenly exclaimed. I turned my head. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the first snowflakes were drifting down beautifully. Smiling, I lowered my head and typed 2 words, okay, when I put on my cream-colored wool coat and hurried to the theater entrance. From a distance, through the falling snow, I saw Amias, wearing a dark gray wool coat, holding a bouquet of roses, standing in front of a silver Kian. His handsome looks and 186-centimeter height attracted quite a few glances. I ran over, a bit out of breath. Weren't you on a business trip? Why are you suddenly here? Because I wanted to see you. Amias handed me the roses, his cool voice low and warm. Just chatting isn't enough for dating. One should show some real attitude, don't you think? He said it calmly, but the content was shocking enough. I blinked up at him, dumbfounded. Huh? Dating? Since when? Amias, are you insane? Chapter 14. So, Amias lowered his head, looking into my eyes, serious and earnest as he asked. When I said on WeChat that I wanted to try dating, Miss Moo didn't take it seriously? Didn't Miss Moo also fancy me? No. Wait. How did this conversation end up being interpreted like that? Seeing my bewildered, helpless expression, Amias frowned lightly. TSK. Was my assassination technique that day not impressive enough to move you? Help. I was going to laugh again. Comrade Amias. Must you deliver jokes this cold, while wearing such an elite CEO face? What good does freezing me to death do? Amias glanced at me and raised a brow slightly as he leaned closer. When Miss Moo wants to laugh, she should try to hold back a little. Please show some respect to my assassin side job. I couldn't hold it in. I lifted my hand and rubbed my temples. So if I laugh too loudly, will I get stabbed 3,000 times? Amias pretended to think seriously. 4 ladies. It's best not to be too rough. So instead, I'll take her to eat steak and ice cream, and she won't be allowed to leave until she's full. Make her eat until she gains weight. Humph. The perfect revenge. What do you think? Laughing, I tilted my head back. Snowflakes drifted down, landing on the rose petals. They didn't melt. Sounds good. Chapter 15. But what I didn't expect was, a reporter who came to cover the performance happened to capture a photo of me and Amias standing at the entrance of the theater. They even used a full spread and included it in the official press release of the performance. The caption read, "The Pipa Goddess achieves both career and romance." After the performance, her mysterious boyfriend pays a surprise visit backstage, silhouette suspected to be Amias Yi, the head of the Yi family. The photos were shot beautifully. Amidst the swirling snow, I was holding bright red roses, lowering my head shyly. Amias, meanwhile, was looking at me with a faint smile. affection in his eyes undisguised. At first glance, we really did look like a couple. This report originally shouldn't have made much noise. But, well, two extremely good-looking people simply can't stay low-key. It even made it onto the trending list. The news practically spread throughout the entire circle. Even some friends who rarely show up reached out to gossip. It felt like I had been forced to make a public relationship announcement. But in reality, Amias and I hadn't officially defined our relationship. Only when a certain someone's cringe-to-the-core hitman side gig went online would he joke about it. I exhaled, got up from the sofa, and prepared to take a shower. Just then, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I thought it was the delivery guy, so I picked up. But the moment the call connected, the background on the other end was noisy, with music playing. I frowned, puzzled. Who is this? It's me, Liam, Benjamin's childhood friend. I opened the bathroom door and placed the towel on the rack. What's up? Liam paused for a moment, then asked awkwardly, you and Amias are together now? My hand holding the comb froze. I lifted my head and looked at myself in the mirror. I pressed my lips together. No. Oh, Liam sounded like he had been relieved. I spoke lightly. Liam, can you do me a favor? Liam was stunned. Go ahead. Help me tell Benjamin. Not having anything now doesn't mean there won't be anything in the future. We've already broken up. What happens in my life has nothing to do with him. Chapter 16. Inside the private booth of the bar, silence hung thick in the air. Liam put down the phone that had just been hung up on him. He turned back to look at Benjamin, who was tilting his head back to gulp down alcohol, and sighed. She didn't say anything wrong. Benjamin rested his elbow on his knee. His tousled hair looked messily defeated. He shot Liam a glare. Liam pursed his lips and quietly scooted a little farther away. Benjamin, don't you think you're being contradictory? You were the one who thought she was boring. You were the one who hated that she proposed, thought she was clingy and trying to tie you down, and dumped her. And now she's not looking back anymore. And this is how you react. Benjamin's gaze instantly darkened. He clenched the glass so tightly his knuckles turned white. Why does she get to move on so easily? Liam was speechless. He exhaled sharply. What? You expected her to cry for years because you cheated on her. Preferably act like she can't live without you. Beg you to take her back, so you could feel better? You didn't want her, but no one else can have her either? Come on, you've never cared about your exes after a breakup. What is this? Didn't get over her? Benjamin tilted his head back and drank again, saying nothing. Liam stared at him for a long time before cursing under his breath. No way. Seriously? Do you not know your own damn temperament? You're not someone who can stay loyal to just one woman for life. Let's be real, marriage alone is enough. Even if you managed to win her back. If she wanted to marry you again, would you do it? Benjamin took a deep breath. He stared into the amber liquid in the glass, yet his eyes only grew more lost. Liam shook his head, sat back down, and said seriously, Benjamin, I'm telling you, don't go looking for her again. Chapter 17. I wasn't sure if I had caught a chill from taking a shower last night. When I woke up early the next morning, I felt a bit unwell, dizzy, with a stuffy nose. So I simply asked the troop for a day off and went back to sleep. But I hadn't slept long before a phone call woke me. It was from Amias. Why didn't you reply all morning? Busy? I answered in a muffled voice. No. I took a sick day. Cough. Cough. Amias paused. You caught a cold? I'm not sure, maybe. I already took some medicine. I'll sleep a bit more. After thinking for a moment, I added, it shouldn't be serious. The other end of the line went quiet. No one spoke. I became more awake. Where'd you go? Putting on my coat. You're going out? No, I'm going to see you. My eyes opened completely. I originally wanted to tell him he didn't need to come, but through the gap in the curtains, I vaguely saw a streak of white outside the window. After thinking about it, I said, okay. Amias was instead a little surprised. You're not rejecting me and telling me not to come? I sat up from under the blanket and pressed the remote to open the curtains. The floor-to-ceiling drapes slid aside, revealing the snowy view outside. Because it's snowing, and because I really don't feel well. Amias fell silent for a moment, then suddenly laughed. So basically, you need me. Chapter 18. It really snowed heavily today. Even when I woke up in the afternoon, it was still snowing. After a nap, I felt much better with nothing else to do. I held my pipa and absent-mindedly plucked at it in the living room. Amias, who had already arrived in the morning, sat on the other side of the sofa quietly reading. For a moment, it gave me the illusion that the two of us were living together, but at the same time, a faint sadness washed over me. Don't you feel bored? I stopped playing and tilted my head toward him. Amias looked up, confused. The window's open. You still feel stuffy? I mean, isn't it boring to just sit here quietly doing nothing? What I really wanted to say was, isn't it dull? To be honest, that word had been circling in my mind ever since the day of the breakup, even though I wasn't going to suddenly transform into a rebellious, adventurous girl just because of it. Still, the word felt like a needle that poked my heart from time to time. I started wondering what it meant for a life to be interesting. Were marriage and relationships inherently a kind of cage that people would eventually grow tired of? If I'm bored, I just find something to do myself. Being in a relationship doesn't mean two people need to be doing things together all the time. Amias tilted his head, smiling slightly, his eyes bright. Often, having you around is enough. The sky suddenly cleared, and sunlight spilled into the room all at once. I froze for a second, turning toward the blindingly bright window. My eyes unexpectedly felt a little sour. That night, I posted on my social media for the first time in a long while. The caption read, "Ding, cold monster has been slain by the hitman." The picture was of the clear sky and the floor-to-ceiling window. Chapter 19. What I didn't expect was, when I got better the next day and went downstairs, I ended up running straight into Benjamin. A blue Maserati was parked right at the main exit of the building, blocking 99% of the passage. Several neighbors gathered not far away, pointing and whispering, all looking extremely annoyed. But Benjamin's expression was so dark to the point that it looked like he had come to pick a fight with someone. Add in a car like that, and anyone could tell he came from money. So although they were angry, no one dared step forward. Benjamin leaned against the car, face cold, and tilted his head at me. Get in. All right. I finally understood why he parked here. Enduring the sharp gazes of my neighbors, I opened the backseat door. Benjamin abruptly slapped the door shut. Without patience, he pushed me toward the passenger seat instead. As the car door slammed shut, I faintly heard him mutter, "What? Is my passenger seat going to eat you?" I was speechless. You're insane. Chapter 20. No one has a temper during morning rush hour traffic. Outside, car horns blared nonstop. Inside the car, I sat quietly in the passenger seat with my eyes closed. Resting, Benjamin propped one arm against the window, his other hand tapping lightly on the steering wheel. After a long while, he finally spoke. His voice was tight, strained. Feeling better from the cold? I didn't open my eyes, nor did I want to acknowledge him. Heh. And people say you have a good temper? When you decide to be tough, you're practically impenetrable. Benjamin let out a bitter laugh, exhaling heavily. Did he take good care of you? My eyes snapped open. How do you know? Chapter 21. Crunch. The car suddenly screeched to a halt. My body lurched forward from inertia, then was yanked back by the seatbelt, and then slammed against the seat again. Benjamin turned his head toward me. His gaze looked calm, yet somehow, I felt he was deeply aggrieved. I enlarged the photo you posted last night. There was another person's silhouette in the reflection of your window. So? He saw just a silhouette and guessed it was Amias? I frowned. Shouldn't I have deleted you from my contacts already? Benjamin's chest rose and fell heavily as he spoke in a suppressed voice. If I want to know something, I'll find a way. You let him stay the night? Are you two together? My voice was cold. None of that has anything to do with you. I wish it had nothing to do with me. His tone spiked. Benjamin suddenly lost control. Slamming a hand against the steering wheel, he grabbed his phone, unlocked it, and held it up in front of me. Do you know what I was doing while you were with him? I was watching this over and over. On the screen was surveillance footage, a video of me and Amias kissing passionately in the elevator of the hotel that day. The image was perfectly clear, Amias pulling me into his arms, pinning me gently against the elevator wall, one hand cupping the back of my head, kissing me urgently. There was no sound in the video, but the scene was scorching enough to make my face burn. You two were really making out. Huh? I actually started feeling jealous of him through a damn screen. Benjamin took a breath, but his eyes were rimmed red. Since the breakup till now, it's like you live rent-free in my damn head, even in my dreams. I went back to my old lifestyle. Yeah, but something has always felt off. There's always something missing. Something hollow. The day you went to a hotel with him, that 1 minute in the elevator, the only thought I had was, if you end up sleeping with him, I'll tear you apart. The screen went dark as the phone locked, and he tossed it into the back seat. Benjamin grabbed my wrist, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a surrender to his own emotions. I regret it, Fiona. I can't stand the thought of you belonging to anyone but me. Break up with him. Let's start over. Let's get married. I'll stop messing around. I'll only have you. From now on, okay? You don't have to do anything. As long as you're there, I'll feel at peace. Fiona, break up with him. Chapter 22. I heard every word Benjamin said, clearly and distinctly, but inside, all I felt was a calm, icy emptiness. This man really had some nerve. A restless playboy who could never settle down, couldn't give a future, couldn't give commitment. Someone who saw marriage as a shackle, a cage, not because he was some free-spirited wanderer, but because he always wanted an escape route at hand. People like him, even their love is a disaster waiting to happen. His momentary impulses, why should they be exchanged for my lifelong sincerity? Benjamin, you're really exhausting. What makes you think that just because you apologize, just because you turn back, I'll always be here? I'm so done watching the same old play about a reformed playboy. Benjamin panicked, quickly grabbing my wrist, his expression urgent. But we were together for 3 years. You've barely known him for how long? Fiona, you can't possibly not love me, right? You loved me so much. You even proposed to me. After saying that, Benjamin seemed to suddenly remember something. He hurriedly pulled a red velvet box from his pocket. My brows furrowed. I already knew what it was. He opened the box, and sure enough, a sparkling diamond ring sat quietly in the velvet cushion. Benjamin looked at me nervously, more serious than I had ever seen him. His voice trembled badly. Fiona, the proposal I owe you, I'm making it up to you now. It's simpler than the one you planned last time. But I can make up everything. I can make it all up. Fiona, give me a chance, okay? Chapter 23. I glanced at the ring, then slowly reached out, with Benjamin watching me with hope in his eyes. Click, I closed the box. No, I don't want to. My hand found the car door handle. Before pushing it open, I paused. After thinking for a moment, I looked back at Benjamin. Benjamin, I gave you my sincerity. I truly, deeply loved you once. But, you were never sincere with me. You never wanted my sincerity. Time changes people. Some things, once missed, are simply missed. What once required nothing from you to obtain, even if you gamble a lifetime now, you'll never get it back. Benjamin's eyes turned completely red. He reached out in a desperate attempt to hold me, but I had already opened the door and stepped out. My phone had been buzzing in my pocket the entire time. I took it out and saw an incoming WeChat call flashing with the name Hitman. I couldn't help but laugh. Oh, right, because Amias's WeChat username was his real name. So after adding him, I never changed his contact note. I smiled and answered. Morning, Mr. Hitman. Benjamin, who had chased out of the car, stopped dead in his tracks, his expression shattered, hurt and disbelief mixing in his eyes. Completely unaware, Amias chuckled softly on the other end. Oh, you recognized me immediately? Seems Miss Mood didn't give me a proper note. I can give you one now, but... I raised a brow at Benjamin. You'll have to come pick me up first. I seem to have an ex here that needs your assistance. Removed. There was a brief moment of silence on the other end. Then Amias's voice dropped, cold and sharp. On my way. Chapter 24. After hanging up the phone, I looked at Benjamin's pale face and tilted my head with a smile. Maybe, if you truly had feelings for me, then how you feel right now should be exactly how I felt the day I saw you kissing that woman after I proposed to you. So, does it feel good? That jealousy, that sting of bitterness, that sadness, yet the complete powerlessness, that collapse, that instant despair of losing everything. Does it feel good? Benjamin, that wound from that day will always stand between us. No matter how many apologies or sweet gestures you give me in the days to come, that fear of betrayal, of being abandoned, will always stay in my heart. Because you get tired of people. When he first pursued me, he made promises, swore he had changed. He tried everything to prove he was sincere, that the playboy phase was over, and I believed him recklessly, wholeheartedly. But the result? Not even 3 years later, his lies cracked open. He got tired, he got annoyed, he cheated. His vows, his remorse, worthless. So tell me, why should I believe he'll ever love me again? Benjamin clearly understood what I meant. His back slumped. His hand trembled violently. He took a few ragged breaths. His voice hoarse. Fiona. I'm sorry. So there's no chance for us anymore, is there? Chapter 25. I didn't answer. Because he already knew. Trust that has shattered, even if repaired, will always remain cracked. Chapter 26. When Amias arrived, Benjamin had already left. Well, not exactly. I could still see a hint of his car at the other end of the street. Amias walked up, took my cold hand, and warmed it with his breath. So, Miss Moo eliminated my rival all by herself? I curved my eyes in a smile, half teasing, half annoyed. It's freezing out here, and you still want to joke with me? Amias lowered his gaze, lifting one eyebrow in a dramatic, wounded way. In that case, does this mean I've lost my chance to earn a proper contact note in Miss Moo's phone? TSK. This man, talking all pitiful and obedient, but his hand is still holding mine. Amias kept my hand in his and walked me toward his car, opening the passenger door for me. Then he cast a subtle, provocative glance toward the blue car at the street corner. Childish. I clicked my tongue and slipped into the passenger seat. The door closed. The car started. I leaned against the window with one hand, resting my cheek as I watched through the rearview mirror. That patch of blue grew smaller and smaller. While driving, Amias glanced at me. Still not going to give me a proper note? I drew back my gaze and looked at him with a smile. Well, since you rushed over so urgently, I'll pity you and give you one. The question is, what should I change it to? Boyfriend? Amias raised his brows immediately, and somehow, there was a hint of pride flickering in his expression. That works. Let's start with that. I'll aim to upgrade to husband within a year. Tisk. Such a tough KPI. I pursed my lips and looked straight ahead, trying to keep a straight face, but the tips of my ears quietly turned red. We'll see how you perform.